Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast, ABCDF1 rankings of the season edition. Not the whole season, don't worry. We are only midway through, even though you'd think with the advantage that Verstappen has in the championship that it has actually finished. But welcome. We're in the mid-season. We're kind of getting through it after the craziness of the first few days of the summer break and Oscar Piastri and yada, 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 and all that good stuff that I'm sure you are well up to speed on. It's been quite quiet. So we've had time to reflect, had time to get some data together. And myself, alongside Tommy, of course, the WTF1 founder.
Hello.
Hi. Are going to talk us through our ABCDEF1 rankings. So, of course, Tommy, take people through what, if they don't listen to the podcast, what we mean by that.
Well, if you don't listen to the podcast,
what are you doing?
What are you doing? But at the end of every race, we do ABCDEF1, where we have some awesome jingles that you guys have made. And we rank every single driver based on their race weekend, obviously, prioritizing more the race. And we go from A star being the best, A, B, C, D, E, and F for the complete failures of a weekend. And then what we've got here is we've got the kind of, it's averaged out over all the scores and stuff, and we've got a nice list from worst to best.
And we will be starting with worst. Don't worry, we won't be spoiling who's number one, although I'm sure a lot of you will probably be able to guess that one. And before we start, this podcast is once again sponsored by Elgato, our season-long partners, and making us almost sound like and look like professionals with all this great equipment. We're still trying to get there, almost. So yes, Tommy, shall we get this show on the road?
Go on then. Who could it be?
Here we go. And I think YouTube don't tend to see Twitch Tommy all too often. So
okay.
This could be interesting. If you're watching on YouTube, we are live on Twitch, WTF1 Official, where you can watch Tommy completely unfiltered. And it is quite something. We've had some great moments already in our watch-alongs. Okay, drum roll, please, from the Twitch chat. In 20th position, and the worst graded driver coming into this mid-season is Nicholas Latifi. Probably doesn't come to much surprise, as much as I see chat incredibly upset with the fact that Nicholas Latifi is coming in 20th position. But let me run you through his grades. He's had 2 Fs, 4 Es, 4 Ds, 2 Cs, and 1 B. Now, these rankings are from the fans, or is this from us?
It's from us. Yeah, average.
An average of ours.
Yeah,
okay.
An average of ours. That we tend to not be too dissimilar to the fans anyway, to be honest, when it's all, because obviously we have our 3 opinions and then we get the average. So yeah, Latifi, his B was at Silverstone, which I'm trying to remember what he did at Silverstone.
What do you mean you're trying to remember what he did? He got into Q3.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah. I'm just so on the hype of Hungary, but unfortunately his Hungary race wasn't that great. And then the 2 Fs came at Saudi and Monaco, where he had some pretty poor accidents, very slow, kind of pathetic accidents. I think in particular the Saudi one almost looked like he just gave up and drove into the wall himself and just wanted to go home.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, was it?
No.
So yeah, no surprise for Latifi being 20th.
No.
I think it's safe to say we're not expecting him to be on the grid next year. Then again, it depends. I think it more depends on if Williams can find a suitable alternative that has the money and is willing, it was able to take that seat. Because I think Latifi, you know what you're getting with him.
Yeah,
which isn't a lot, but
no. All the sponsors on the car are through his coffee and whatever food company that I think is it his dad owns. Not 100% sure, but yeah. So he obviously brings a lot of money into the team. But Williams have said now that they're not quite so desperate. But they kept him this year, so they can't have been. They weren't obviously that fussed about it. So yeah, we'll just mention as well that Nico Hulkenberg, because he's not a full-time driver, he's the only 21st driver, but it wouldn't be fair to just stick him in the middle somewhere because he only did, was it 2 races?
Yes, it was
two races. So yeah.
Is it also worth mentioning how we've come to these average grades, how it's been totted up?
Yeah, so you get points based on what you get. So the most points is for an A star. Then I think I think an F is 1, an E 2, D 3, etc. And it's almost like a championship points. So it's not necessarily like an Olympic table where if you get loads of A stars, it's kind of the collection of the whole thing, like a normal championship, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And don't worry, on screen you will see it. If you're an audio listener, sorry, you're going to have to listen to us go through the grades. But if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see a full totted up table that I'm sure will be coming up on screen. So yes, Nicholas Latifi, 20th position on this ABCDF1 ranking.
Who saw it coming?
It's sad because that Silverstone performance was incredible, but unfortunately, lightning only struck once. Let's not be too horrible about Hungary. Right, let's move on. Let's move on from the Go Tifi disrespect. I see the Twitch chat popping off. In 19th position, Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, fair.
Now, Mick Schumacher, despite getting a few points on the board, still 19th position when it comes to averages. So he's had 1 A star, which was Austria, 1 A, which is Silverstone, 2 Bs, 2 Cs, 3 Ds, and 4 Es. Now, the problem I think for Mick here and what's really affected his averages are the horrendous 4 Es that he's had. Now,
there's a lot of people in the chat going, no. And this is the thing, isn't it? This is a collation of the whole season, and Mick was, in my opinion, worse than Latifi at the start of the season. He was absolutely appalling because he was binning it every single race, it seemed, and not just binning it, causing absolute multi-million pounds worth of damage that was costing Haas big time in a budget cap era. And yes, he's turned it around in a couple of races. He got the A at Silverstone and the A star in Austria. That's 2 performances, and with 13 races in, and he's got, like you said earlier, Matt, 3 Ds and 4 Es. So that's bringing his kind of grade way down. And while we look at it now and go, oh, Mick Schumacher's improved a little bit, my word, his start to the season was not very good, to put it mildly.
And there's a lot of talk that the chats with Haas have stalled. And we're not exactly sure if he's going to be staying with the team, staying in Formula One. Who knows? But I think that's very much going to be a case of seeing how he gets on at the start of the second half of the season. Now, I forgot to do a poll for Nicholas Latifi, but I'm just going to assume that 100% of people wanted him to be higher than 20th. So we've got a poll in the Twitch chat. We've got higher. So if anyone thinks that this particular driver needs to be higher up the standings and it's a bit too harsh with the grades, they'll select higher. There's agree, which is spot on. And then lower is, hey, these grades are far too nice. So for Mick Schumacher, we have 54% of Twitch chat agreeing. 43% reckon he should be higher than 19th. And 3% reckon he should be lower. Wow. He reckons he could be 20th. Okay.
Yeah, savage.
But yeah, I think, there are a few standout performances, but overall, he's just not been good enough. The expectation from everyone really is, K-Mag's been brought off the sofa. And fair enough, he has been doing other driving. But in the grand scheme of his body being ready for Formula One, I think he said in Saudi Arabia, didn't he, that his neck was giving way and things like that. So his body was not ready. Yeah. Exactly. He was not fit for Formula One. Mick should have been destroying him. Now, it's a testament to K-Mag, I think, that he
delivered straight away, didn't he?
Plugged in, didn't he?
Because the Haas was good. The Haas was good at the start of the season, and that we thought would be. Thankfully, they've come strong a little bit towards the end of this break as well. But the Haas was good at the start of the season. That's when they needed to deliver. So the fact that Mick didn't score a point till Silverstone was his first points was pretty poor, to say the least.
Unfortunate for Mick, but we have placed him 19th on the ABCDF1 rankings. We now move to 18th position, and it goes to Lance Stroll. Now, I think his grades very much sum up how I feel like I've been speaking about him for the entirety of the season. He's had no A stars, no A's, 4 B's, 4 C's, 3 D's, and 2 E's. I think, and I'm going to just say this. I think Lance Stroll has had the most anonymous season of any driver on the grid by quite some margin.
100%.
He's just not not done anything special, has he? He's had the odd, he's qualified 18th and he's now 10th. Fair enough. He has had a few good performances which have granted him a B, but obviously his qualifying has been terrible. Vettel's obviously struggled as well. But we've not had anything that's really made you sit up and take note.
No, he's been okay. But like you say, he's just not had anything about him, has he? He's actually the only driver, along with Latifi, not to get an A, if you discount Hulkenberg, which we are. So, and I think you're right. Sums up his season, really. What is there to talk about? There was a bit at the start of the season where, in my opinion, I thought that he was getting into a lot of incidents, and I questioned that a lot of those incidents were partly his fault as well, because he certainly liked to turn in on people, and they got a penalty. But sometimes you have to think, would I rather them get a penalty or my car survive and I carry on and get some points? So yeah, not a particularly great season. I mean, looking at his results, the B's and C's have come a lot more recently, so he's picked it up, but he's still missing that kind of special performance. Like I say, no A's or A stars at all.
Yeah, it's disappointing because the Aston Martin hasn't been there. It's needed the odd great performance, and it's just not really come for Lance Stroll. And I think it's just testament of having a lifetime seat in Formula One. How do you have the same level of motivation as the drivers that are fighting for their careers every single race? But yeah, Lance Stroll, 18th position. As for the poll, we put it to the Twitch chat. 48% of chat agree with 18th. 48% reckon he should be lower than 18th, and only 4% reckon he should be higher. So there's a lot of Lance Stroll haters in the chat.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
I'd probably put him there. I think he's been better than Mick, despite his reputation, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think as well, it was quite poignant at the start of the year, wasn't it? When Nico pretty much outperformed.
I think he outqualified him, didn't he, in his first race? And you think,
which is insanity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it had no testing, and again, did he and stuff? So,
absolutely.
Brand new era of car.
Just seen a
good look.
Question in the chat from Tomsy24. What is the source of motivation for Stroll?
Yeah, quite
going fast and having fun. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, everyone would, wouldn't they? If their dad was like, "Do you want to drive an F1?" Yeah, okay, go on then.
Sure. Oh, go on. What are you doing on Sunday?
Yeah,
cool.
You can't get fired no matter what you do. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, crash the car as much as you want. We don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on from Lance Stroll in 18th position. In 17th, we have Yuki Sonoda. Tommy's not going to be happy with this one. The fanboy of Yuki. And it's been topsy-turvy season for Yuki, and his grades absolutely suggest that. So he has had 2 A's in Imola and Baku. So obviously no A stars, 2 A's, 3 B's, no C's. He's not had 1 C grade, which is the most down the line. Yeah, he had a bit of an anonymous race. That must be the first time ever in ABCD F1 history that a driver's not received a C.
There's only one other driver that hasn't got a C in this grade, but we'll go into that a lot later. Yeah, spoiler. But yeah, Yuki Sonoda, the C, the C grade that we normally do is very much, if you've ever watched our podcast, and when we get down the field and you've got those drivers that kind of finish 13th, 14th, 15th, and you're just like, I didn't see them at all. I don't really know what their race was. That's probably about where the car should finish. C. So the fact that he's managed to get no C's is, like you say, mind-boggling.
So 2 A's, 3 B's, no C's, 5 D's, and 2 E's at Silverstone and Hungary.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not really worked out for Yuki. Of course, he had a recent decent grade in France with a B, but then followed it up with one of the worst performances I think ever in Hungary, where he was 2 laps down, spinning around on fresh soft tires, and it's a shame because he has. When you actually look at it and you look at qualifying and stuff like that, he's picked it up in comparison to Gasly, but Gasly's kind of gone off the boil a little bit, and Yuki has obviously made some mistakes here and there.
Yeah.
17th. I need to do a poll. I see chat absolutely kicking off at me for not putting a poll up. So let me do that right now. But it maybe surprises me that he's 17th. I thought he may have with these decent performances in Imola and Baku, maybe just thrown himself a little bit higher.
Yeah, he's very close to the person who's next, but I probably wouldn't put him any higher than that, despite my love for Yuki. He's just had that season, like you say, where he's either been really, really good, or really bad. Particularly the last few races. I mean, he got an A in Baku, and we were singing his praises, thinking, yes, Yuki is having a good season now. And then he followed that up with a D grade, an E grade, a D grade, a B, and then an E again. So he's just having a few little silly incidents here and there. So yeah, I have to say I probably agree just about. I wouldn't put him that much higher if I did bump him up one.
Yeah, maybe one. So as for the poll, 71% agree with Yuki Sonoda being 17th. 22% reckon he should be higher, and 6% reckon he should be lower. So fascinating stuff. Thank you, Twitch chat, for getting involved in each of these.
One thing that's quite interesting actually about this is 17th, when you look at it and you go 17th, Sonoda's 17th, that's really low and really harsh. But then you actually look at all the drivers ahead of him and you're like, no, I wouldn't put him ahead of him. No, I wouldn't put him ahead of him.
That's exactly
no,
it. Yeah.
It's 100% that, which kind of shows that that maybe the bar is quite high in Formula One, despite the complaints. You can have a good season, and someone has to be 17th, 18th, 19th.
Exactly. So 17th for Yuki Sonoda. We now move to 16th position, and it goes to Daniel Ricciardo.
Ouch.
Yeah. But then again, you just spoke about it, Tommy. Would I be putting him above some of the other drivers?
No.
I don't know. So Daniel Ricciardo has received 1A for Melbourne, 4 Bs, 2 Cs, 5 Ds, and 1 E for Silverstone.
That's a split the room right there, similar to Yuki.
Yes, I'm going to end the poll, start a new one. Tommy, give us your thoughts.
Well, I think it says a lot that his only A came in Melbourne and he still finished behind Lando. I know it was team orders and they were just kind of holding station, but he's just not been good, has he? And he hasn't seemed to have improved. And it's very much, I'm not on this Nico Rosberg theory that Lando's really good and Ricciardo's bad, because I feel like Ricardo will have a good race where he's on the back of Lando, and that's the best you can hope for, where he's on the back of Lando or maybe one place behind him, never beating him. And then we'll have an absolutely appalling race where Lando's outqualified him by 7, 8, 9, 10 positions, which is just not good enough, is it?
Twitch Tommy's coming out. We love to see it. The poll, very interesting. So Danny Rick for 16th place, 58% have voted agree, 25% reckon lower, and 16% reckon higher. So there's a fair chunk of you that agree that Daniel Ricciardo does not deserve to be any higher than 16th in these driver rankings. And it's just so disappointing. It's disappointing to watch. It's obviously slightly promising if he does have a Baku or whatever, although I think he was on a different strategy to Lando when he was on the back of him.
The Baku race was a mess, wasn't it? Where it felt like he wasn't getting any of the calls, and
like he should have been let through. They didn't, and that's testament probably to him not being on the pace of Lando, and McLaren always putting their strongest foot forward. Take notes, Ferrari. But yeah, I think it's sad and it hurts my heart, but I cannot disagree with 16th position for Daniel Ricciardo. It's obviously Australia's helped him with that 1A, but he's had 5 Ds and 1 E, and that's just it's nowhere near good enough. And I'm not personally on the Nico Rosberg hype train as well. Like, I think Lando is a great driver, but I don't think he's the next Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton at the moment, at least. No. But yeah, it's a difficult challenge for Danny Rick, but he needs to be outperforming Lando just a few times a year, just to at least be like, fair enough. But we've not seen it, and we were harsh enough say, for example, the teammate comparison between Verstappen and Alban, Verstappen and Gasly. It's the same sort of thing where they didn't keep their seat and they weren't good enough. Danny Rick's
and they were the young driver, not the experienced
Yeah.
one that's meant to be the team leader and that won multiple races and stuff. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Time will tell. And if Oscar Piastri does drive for McLaren next year, I'm going to be so interested to see how the younger Australian does. So Daniel Ricciardo, 16th place. We now move to 15th. Pierre Gasly. 15th for Pierre Gasly, which may come as a surprise for some. He has had a lot of bad luck, but he's also not exactly been changing the world with his performances. No. He's had 1 A star in Baku, 1 A, 2 Bs, 6 Cs, and 2 Ds. Now, of course, let's talk the actual grading. Sometimes you can't grade them because of X, Y, and Z and whatnot. And that's a lot of Cs for Pierre Gasly, where he's had maybe a case of bad luck. But overall, over the course of the season, this goes for all drivers. And 15th place is where he's ended up.
Last year, he was 6th in our rankings. He was brilliant, wasn't he? Got loads of A's, and yeah, he was. The car is no doubt a lot better, which always makes it difficult. Formula One is such a difficult sport because no one has the same car, even teammates, really, you could argue. So, to a point. But yeah, the fact that he's dropped so low, yes, it's the car that we'll never know.
It doesn't seem to be. Time. Sorry, Tommy. I just for video watchers, you've just seen Soph walk out with a bag. Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, for the fact that Gasly, the car looked decent in Baku. It's probably the only time that car's looked any good this season. And to be fair, Gasly did deliver. So maybe it has just been the car, but he has been involved in a few silly incidents here and there and some first lap crashes as well. And I guess that's what happens when you're qualifying 15th and 16th rather than last year when he was 5th, 6th, 7th all the time. So
exactly,
it's one of those things where he's unlucky, but I'm always like, I agree, but then I was part I was part of the people that chose it. So no surprise.
I know, that's so weird, isn't it?
There are some
the grades are in from me. It's like the it's the Barack Obama putting the medal over himself. But yes, it's difficult to say 15th for Pierre Gasly. As you say, from last year, he was so impressive. But AlphaTauri have taken a massive backward step with their car this year. And, there's only so much sometimes. For example, a C performance might have actually been one of his best races of his career, but the car's an absolute dog. Exactly. So there's, of course, going to be some limitations with our opinion, but that is all it is, opinions. So you may well disagree or agree. In fact, let's go to the poll. In the Twitch chat, we have 57% agree with Pierre Gasly being 15th, 34% reckon he should be higher, and 10% reckon lower. All of them Yuki Sonoda fans, I bet. So yeah, 15th for Pierre Gasly. We now move to 14th place, and it goes to Zhou Guanyu. So he has popped in the grades of 0 A stars, 4 A's, no B's, never had just a good performance, 6 C's, 2 D's, and 1 E, which came in the way of France. So 14th for Zhou Guanyu. I thought he was going to be a lot lower towards the start of the season, where I felt like Bottas was destroying him pretty comprehensively. But then he had a nice string of 3 A's, which was Azerbaijan, Canada, and Great Britain. And
been so unlucky as well.
Yeah, he's had a lot of bad luck.
It's really hard to grade him a lot of the time.
Some of those C's, of course, again, same with Gasly, have come from just bad luck, and you just give him a straight down the line C. But he's steadily impressed and kept moving forward, and I don't think Alfa Romeo can really complain too much.
No, he's done a solid job. I think he could have done better. There's a few races where the Alfa Romeo looked pretty decent, and he's been really unlucky when I want to say Miami, maybe Spain as well. I can't remember the exact ones, but he put in some like ridiculous performances in like a Q1 where he bangs it into P4, and it's like, hello, well, this is a unbelievable lap, and then gets blocked or something in Q2 and gets absolutely shafted, and then his car just disintegrates because he's got a Ferrari engine in the back, and it's ruined by about 7 laps anyway. So it's really hard to grade a lot of them, but when he's finished, we've given him a lot of A's, to be fair. So he is impressing, and
there's a question actually in chat which we probably need to cover off. How did Zhou Guanyu get an A for the British Grand Prix?
I can't remember. I think it was a bit of a. He qualified really well because he had qualified Russell, didn't he? He was so all you could really grade him was the fact that he had a great qualifying.
I think
it wasn't
partly
his fault.
That came off the fact of being happy that he was okay and things like that. Definitely. So, because I know usually if there's bad luck or whatever, we just go straight down with C. But I think it was I
think we're like, I want to give him an A
of quality and not really doing much wrong.
Where did he qualify?
Rigged. Yeah, these opinions are rigged.
To be fair, he qualified 9th. He got into Q3 when Bottas didn't, and we all know what a great qualifier Bottas is. So I think we did just go, well, he's actually had a really good performance there. And
anyway, it all balances itself out because the amount of C's we've had to give him when his car's broken down. I think he deserved an A. And if you're going to try and take that away from him, chat, you're a disgrace. Okay, right. So Zhou Guanyu 14th. But steadily improving. And as for the poll, 50% of chat reckon he should be higher than 14th, 36% agree, and 14% reckon he should be lower. It's interesting. I think that's the first one we've had.
First one, big disagreement. Yeah,
where there's been more for higher. So Zhou Guanyu 14th. We now move to 13th. Unlucky for some. Alex Alban in the Williams, of course. He has clocked up 1 A star, which was Australia, 1 A, 3 Bs, 5 Cs, 3 Ds, but no Es. So Alban has not had a stinker. And apparently this is where we get into the territory of no stinkers. Because if you're getting this high up the grid, then you're having at least some decent performances. But I think Alex has been generally quite impressive in that Williams. He's, of course, come back to Formula One. He's had to pick himself up, dust himself off after what happened with Red Bull. And I think Williams has been the perfect place for him to settle himself back in to Formula One. There's no pressure on him. We saw him thrive in the Toro Rosso, when he was it Alpha? It was Toro Rosso? It was Toro, was it? Was Toro Rosso?
It was Toro Rosso when he was there.
It was Toro Rosso. I was doubting myself for a second. We saw him thrive then where maybe the pressure cooker of being in that Red Bull seat didn't, wasn't affecting him like it would be in the Williams. So I think it's been brilliant for him. I don't want to see him stay in the Williams forever if they're not going to take a step forward. But Alex has been outperforming the car for sure. Yeah,
he's been very solid, performing well, really. I know the thing is, it's difficult because he's against Latifi, but then we were all singing George Russell's praises and he was against Latifi as well. But the difference there was obviously he put it P2 on the grid in one of the races. But Alban, his performance in Australia, for example, coming from last, being the only one that just didn't fancy pitting and only did because of necessity at the end, really good. And we obviously, it became a big thing how George took forever to get points for Williams, and Alban bagged some points pretty early, didn't he, in only the 3rd race of the season. So he's done very well. I'm very curious to see who they put in that Williams next to him, and if it's a decent, solid driver, be interesting to see how Alban does. But he's been very good, I'd say, and I think these drivers,
very good. But he's 13th on our grading system.
I think the problem is we're gonna tend to get a lot of disagreements now because at the end of the day, these are really close. A lot of these drives, in terms of the actual points that you get, that we've worked this out, it's really close. So, you might only be a C grade away from 1, and like say like Zhou Guanyu, maybe like 1 more A puts him like 11th rather than 14th. I think a lot of these drivers are quite similar, and I would find quite hard to definitively say, oh yes, Alban, Zhou, Gasly, they're kind of all that same driver, and they've had that same kind of season where if we were doing ABCD EF1 rankings and you kind of go give them a grade, it's like high B, something like that.
Tommy, you're not allowed high Bs, you know that. God. So, you thought you'd have got that by now. Jesus. Right. So Alex Albon, 13th for him. We now move to P12, and it goes to Kevin Magnussen. Now, he has scored 1A star, which was Bahrain, 1A, 4 Bs, 3 Cs, 4 Ds, and no E's. Of course, we were incredibly impressed by K-Mag on his first race back. And generally speaking, I know we slandered Mick Schumacher a bit, but you have to say that K-Mag has done very well to fit back into a team that, of course, he knows quite well, but a brand new car. And I think he's been about as good as what Haas could have wanted, really, from someone that they've plucked out of retirement of Formula One.
Yeah, his start to the season, I watched the highlights back. Him finishing 5th is absolutely unbelievable. The fact that he came back, hadn't done really much of testing, and it was his first race in ages, not much preparation, and finished best of the rest was absolutely superb. And that A star was amazing. But where his grades have kind of come down a little bit.
Also, I forgot. Did I say that Alban had 52% higher as well? I don't know if I went through the poll or not. Sorry, Tommy. I just thought I'd say that before it disappears. Carry on.
No worries. But yeah, Kevin Magnussen had some good grades, but I think probably 4 of those Ds have been from where he's trying to go wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton on turn 1 when he doesn't need to do it, and just think about getting some solid points for Haas rather than trying to be an absolute hero and overtake half the grid on the first lap, which I know he did in France, and it was amazing. But sometimes he just needed to kind of pick up the points. So, yeah, 12 for K-Mag. It's funny that from the look of it, this poll is going to be again higher, and it's funny that Zhou Guanyu higher, Alex Albon higher, Kevin Magnussen higher. It's like, so who's lower?
Well, I can tell you who.
Well, I think I know who it's going to be.
Want it to be lower, and it's Sebastian Vettel. They're all thinking now maybe it's going to be P1 for Sebastian Vettel. I can promise you it's not. But yeah, 57% have gone for higher for K-Mag. 34% agree, and 9% reckon he should be lower. But yeah, it's a lot of people are slandering Vettel right now. So don't listen if you're a Seb fan. But yeah, P12 for K-Mag, and should be very happy with himself. Now, the final 11th position, the final position we've got for this first episode of the ABCD F1 rankings for the mid-season, P11 goes to Sebastian Vettel. You'll be pleased to know, Twitch chat. He has scored 1 A star, 2 A's, 2 B's, 5 C's, no D's, and 1 E's. He's been very consistently graded well, and I'm
looking at this. I reckon I'm
absolutely.
I know
fuming.
She's. To be fair, I'm looking at this, and I kind of agree with chat. Because she's not here, I'm going to fully blame Katie, because I know she loves Sebastian Vettel and has definitely been grading him too high and bumping up our average. But
yeah, that is interesting. So let's pick it. Let's pick it. Pick away what we've done. Right. So Sebastian Vettel, of course, he didn't have the first 2 races to be graded. He got
an 8. He had the nightmare in Australia, which should have been an F, not an E, because he was crashing at every opportunity. But yeah, so in the chat,
God, 75% have gone for lower.
I would agree personally. Yeah. I think I'm looking at his results. He has done all right, and it's hard to know how good the grade is, and how good the Aston Martin is. But he's 14th in the championship on 16 points. Lance, to say we've graded Lance so low, how many points has Lance got? 5?
I don't know.
So
4.
So yeah, a lot more points for Vettel, but 11th is like looking at the drivers. If I had to place this and we were literally choosing it, I'd put him probably behind Gasly, or maybe about the same as Gasly in a 15th. 14th.
Now I think it's worked well in Vettel's favour in the sense of, well, not worked well because his car hasn't been working. Yeah, he's missed the races, but also his car's been a bit of a dog, been known for it to be quite a terrible car, and he has scored points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races this season. The Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Great Britain, and Hungary. And when you look at his grades, Vettel got an A for Italy or Emilia-Romagna, a B for Monaco, an A star for Azerbaijan, because getting that car into 6th place and also doing a spin turn was quite impressive. Great Britain, again, he got an A, where he finished 9th. Maybe we're a little bit too happy with that. But then again, we might be comparing him to Lance Stroll, who's finished 47th and 3 laps off. We don't know.
That's the thing. Yeah, I think Kendo47, Wow Geek in the chat has got it right, where he said you expect absolutely nothing from Aston Martin. So when Vettel even gets 1 point, you grade him fairly highly.
It's very true.
And I think that's very true.
Literally, he finished like 9th or 10th. We're like, oh,
A or B, yeah.
Because they're qualifying 19th. And you're like, well, that's an unbelievable drive. I think Aston Martin, that's what they're doing. They're not going for points in the championship. They're going for ABCDF1 gradings. It's clever. It's very clever. There you go. This is where it's at. Sebastian Vettel, 11th. As for the vote, 73% have voted that Vettel should be lower. 19% agree and 8% reckon he should be higher. So there you go. Tommy, that is it for 20th to 11th. Final thoughts?
We're clearly all washed and don't know wheel.
No, I feel like Vettel's the only one.
Yeah, Vettel's the only one. Everyone agreed. Yeah, I think Vettel probably should have been a bit lower, but I will go on record and say that Vettel, Magnussen, Alban, Zhou Guanyu, Gasly, it's very hard to separate all of them, really. And it can look quite hugely swayed by a couple of good results, can bump you up massively. So everyone blaming Katie in the chat, and I agree. Blame Katie. Although, to be fair, one of us had to agree with her in order for the grade to go through. It's not an average. It's I'm normally the grumpy one, so I think it's you and Katie. Okay, honest. Cool. We'll stop being so nice to Vettel for the second half of the season. Let's dive into now, shall we, Tommy? The top 10? Yeah, I think there's going to be more disagreements on this one, because this is where people have more of an opinion, I think, over the top drivers. So this could get a bit tasty. And these drivers usually get more TV time as well. So, yes. You actually know what's gone on. So you know what's happened. You don't just go, oh, see. Giovinazzi, see. Giovinazzi, exactly. See. Oh, poor old Gio. Hope his thumb gets better, by the way. I heard his thumb's hurting. Right, anyway. Strange segue. Okay, let's start with 10th position. Don't know if that was the right English, but either way, Esteban Ocon. It's Esty Bestie, P10. Esty Bestie, P10. His grades, 1 A star for Austria, 2 A's, 5 B's, 4 C's, 1 D, and 0 E's. I think Esteban Ocon sits about where I would put him. Maybe. I don't have to disagree with myself. I don't know. I think he's actually been one of those quiet performers, in my opinion. Solid. Where he has been picking up points. I know Alonso's had some bad luck, but he has outscored Fernando Alonso so far this season. I know you can't really compare the two there because, of course, as I say, Fernando's had some misfortune, but I think Esteban's had a solid season. It's been not incredible, but it's been good enough to be picking points up and to be challenging McLaren for P4 in the Constructors. Would it be fair to say that Ocon has had a similar season to maybe it's similar with him and Alonso how it is with George Russell and Hamilton, where Hamilton is maybe not arguably the better driver and has got the points now, and now he's got the car there, and when it's performing, he's better. But Ocon is just a bit like Russell, has just picked up the points where he needs it, and when he's had a bit of more luck than Alonso, but I think also at the same time, he's done, he's out-qualified Alonso, particularly in Hungary comes to mind, where we were all hyping Alonso. Is he going to get on the front row? This could be amazing. And Ocon out of nowhere out-qualifies him, and you don't really say much, do you? Like, oh, good performance from Ocon. Whereas Alonso's got that more spice to him, hasn't he? Where it just feels more, he has the more kind of like high-profile, exciting moments, whereas Ocon's just like your consistent point scorer. But also likes to put his teammate in the wall a little bit as well. It's funny.
Team
Ocon
playing,
is appalling. Ocon is a very strange driver in the fact that he's, dare I say, he's quite a dirty driver, but doesn't have the reputation of a dirty driver because he's like, because he's all friendly and he's a nice personality, and a lot of his stuff I feel like goes under the radar, but actually his racing is like way worse than certain drivers that have a bad reputation for it, like Verstappen and things like that, of like being dirty and putting people into the wall and stuff. And Ocon, especially when it comes to your teammate, he just does not care, does he? It's an absolute savage.
No, he doesn't. But we're not rating him on team playing, although sometimes that has taken some kind of factor in our grades, I suppose Hungary being one of them. But he's only had 3 races this year where he hasn't scored. So he's scored 7th, 6th, 7th, then 14th, 8th, 7th, 12th, 10th, 6th, retired from Great Britain. Still don't know why he stopped on the pit straight. Or the
but you're over it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm so over it. Then Austria, I don't know why that has a 6 over the top of it. But anyway.
Sprint race points.
Gotcha. Yeah, so 5th, 8th, and 9th. So it's been solid. I think he definitely deserves to be in the top 10. As for the poll from Twitch, 62% agree, 25% reckon he should be lower, and 13% reckon he should be higher. Interesting. Quite a quiet season, as we say, from Ocon, but picking up the points. He's 8th in the Drivers' Championship, so that is quite impressive for Esti Besti. Okay, 9th position, Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah,
he's had 1 A star in Imola, 3 A's, 5 B's, 3 C's, 1 D, and no E's. Now, Valtteri Bottas's season has been a tale of 2 halves, in my opinion, where the first half of the season, he was absolutely flying. And the second half, I feel like it's just not been as great for him. And that pretty much, well, I mean, that's basically what it was like in Mercedes, wasn't it?
You're absolutely right. I'm just looking at his grades, and he got, so you can literally see the first half and the second half. So he goes A, B, B, A star, A star, A star, B.
Wait, no, 1 A star, lad. What did you say? He had 3 A stars.
Oh, sorry.
A star, A star, A star.
Sorry. A, B, B, A star, A, B. And then the next half of the season is C, B, C, B, D, C. So very much kind of Bottas has done all right. Whereas I think the hype, I think a lot of it, he was very hyped, wasn't he, at the start of the season, where it was like, oh my God, he's beating Lewis Hamilton in the championship in an Alfa Romeo. This is like, people were finding it hilarious and ridiculous that he'd gone from Mercedes and was now actually fighting them in an Alfa Romeo, a car that was absolutely useless last year. And yeah, he was a new man at the start of the season, but I think the car, for whatever reason, just hasn't been there really that much, and he's kind of Alfa Romeo sort of plummeting a bit to the point, like we mentioned with Giovinazzi, where you just have those races where you're like, oh, finished 12th, see, didn't really see him all race.
So, exactly, and yeah, it's almost as if Alfa haven't been able to keep up. They had a great car out the blocks. Bottas was making the complete most of it. Zhou Guanyu, of course, was just getting up to speed and wasn't really anywhere near Bottas at the start of the season. And then since then, it's just tailed off a little bit. And I think Bottas, again, hasn't really had any standout moments either towards the end of this first half of the season. So, yeah, I think 9th is about right for Valtteri Bottas. As for the poll, we've got 72% have agreed. That is changing as I've only just put the poll up, but around 70% have agreed. Then it's lower with 20% and higher with 10%. So, yeah, Valtteri Bottas, 9th place.
We've done our job there, I think.
We did it. We got something right, Tommy. People agree with us. Oh, my God.
Good stuff.
Next up, in 8th position on the ABCDEF1 rankings, Fernando Alonso.
Surprised at that, personally.
So Fernando, 8th place, and his grades are as follows. No A stars, 6 A's, 3 B's, 3 C's, 1 D, which was Miami, and no E's.
No A stars for Fernando is
shocking,
wild.
Considering you're the one that voted.
I know.
And I don't. Nah, there's no way you tried to give Alonso an A star at all. No.
Probably Canada, maybe. Well, actually, no, because I think when we voted in Canada, we didn't know he had that problem. Where we were just kind of like, oh, that's a shame. He's just dropped through the field and somehow finished behind Ocon when he finished P2, which kind of sums up his season, doesn't it? Where he'll put in some absolute worldy qualifying performance or do something ridiculous and then either have some bad luck or something will happen. So Alonso, it's a difficult one because I think Alonso, and I am guilty of it, can suffer from a bit of like, just because he's such an exciting driver, you can sometimes hype him up too much when you look at Ocon and you go, and everyone's singing Alonso's praises and Ocon's kind of, got more points and sometimes has beaten him on occasion. But I still think 8th is maybe a bit low, but maybe it's just because he's had these like worldy performances and then had races where when things don't go his way, he's either weaving down the straight to block people and getting penalties or cutting corners or Ocon puts him in the wall and he drives around, complains on the radio and then signs for Aston Martin. So, but that's why we love him, because he's fireworks. He's Hollywood, isn't he?
He is. He's great. He's a great entertainment factor as Fernando Alonso. And I think as well, there might be some recency bias playing with Fernando Alonso, especially when you look at the last 5 races, we've graded him A, B. So he's had some very solid races very recently. But then you look at the start of the season, it was C, A, C, C, D as the first 5. So that's where, of course, his overall grade has come down a little bit. But then again, some of those C's, like Australia, for example, he should have potentially popped that on the front row of the grid, but his car broke. But we've had that for everyone. We've had that for Gasly. We've had it for a few other drivers where they've had unfortunate things happen to them. But, you can't say, oh, well, if his car had finished, we'll give him an A. So yeah, Fernando Alonso gets 8th place. As for the grading, 47% agree. 38% think Alonso should be higher, and 15% reckon he should be lower. So
it's not as bad as I thought. I thought the chat would be like, oh my God, he should be so much higher. But no, maybe not. Maybe it's just my Fernando bias coming through. It's funny you mentioned like, oh, you can't you can't expect to not finish the race and get an A unless you're Zhou Guan Yu.
Yeah, that was a very
upside down,
special
a scary crash
situation, wasn't it?
And he had a great qualifying.
Yeah, yes. I love how we're still trying to cover off how
that's
rigged,
the beauty
this
of performance, though, because it's a bit different. Sometimes you do get a little special grade that other people wouldn't give because we're nice, and sometimes we're really horrible as well.
Sometimes we are, mainly you. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Fernando Alonso, 8th place. We now move to P7, and it goes to Carlos Sainz. 7th for the Ferrari driver, and I agree with it.
Yeah, me too. A lot of people will go, what? And forgetting that how poor his start to a season was.
Exactly. Just putting the poll up now for chat to get involved. But when I look at the other drivers this season and the machinery Sainz has had underneath him.
Yeah.
That's the key part here, right? We're not denying that he's had some great performances. Let's go through the grades. He's had 2 A stars, 3 A's, 5 B's, 1 C, and 2 Ds. That's all it is, right? That's all that is to get him 7th. And we're not saying he's been horrendous this year, but if you actually look at the pace that he's shown compared to Charles Leclerc, it's been comparable to Perez being off Verstappen sometimes.
Yeah.
And, I would say the Ferrari's been the fastest car this year.
Yeah.
Over the course of the season. And to have only picked up a victory when his teammate got shafted by strategy, Verstappen had it damage.
Didn't get an A star that race, did he? Which
he didn't even get an
summed
A star.
It up. Yeah.
So, I mean, his 2 A stars came in at Monaco for overriding Ferrari orders and making it happen, and France. So it's not like he's miles off the rest, like 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, as we've said.
Let's not forget, like, you look at the start to his season, he got B, B, D, C, B, D to start the season because we had to be savage in Australia where he's got a great car underneath him and he just pushed too hard trying to get through the pack too quickly, went in the gravel. Spain as well.
D was very
probably even
conservative from us, to be honest. Like, he's been this car, easily had the car to probably finish 5th in that race.
Even Hungary at B, he's not been shafted by strategy like Leclerc, and he still didn't get a podium.
Mm-hmm.
And
Leclerc cleared off, didn't he, once he passed Sainz in the pits as well. So Sainz, I love how we've given it a serious amount of explanation, but 69% of chat have agreed, and they think that is correct for Sainz to be 7th. 23% reckon he should be higher, and 8% reckon he should be lower. So there you go. That's Carlos Sainz out the way, P7.
Yep.
We now move to 6th place, and it is Lando Norris. So, I see you chat with the nice. Lando Norris in P6.
Yep.
So he's had 1 A star for Imola, 4 A's, 5 B's, 3 C's, no D's, and no E's. So
this is the chat.
I love the chat. What? Agree.
Oh my god.
This is washed.
And then the next one. Agree.
I love it so much. I think that's about right, personally, and not because, again, like, the McLaren's not been great at some points in the year, but look at the grades. He's not been given anything under a C. Can anyone really give an example of where he deserved something lower than a C? I can't off the top of my head. Can you, Tommy?
No. Lando's one of those drivers, I feel, where doesn't have many incidents, does he, really? Or make too many mistakes. Obviously, there's the really high-profile Russia one that people will use against him forever, but that was obviously a unique situation and unlucky, in my opinion. So, still the only driver, of course, to get a podium that's not in the top three cars. So, he is a difficult one to grade, though, in my opinion, because his teammates awful this season. Like, his teammate has been really bad, and it's hard to know whether Lando Norris is the next Lewis Hamilton, or if he's just doing a solid job in a decent McLaren. I personally think that he's doing a good job.
A very good job. Yeah, I think a very good job.
6 is fair.
Yeah, P6 is great. Say? I love how we looked at Twitch chat and they're like, I disagree. Oh, he should be lower. And then you actually look at the poll, 49% have agreed, 40% reckon he should be higher, and 11% reckon he should be lower. Now, I think a lot of those people voting higher reckon he should be maybe higher than Perez, but we will see. Let us know in the comments, chat, if that's what you think or whatnot. But P6 for Lando Norris. And we now get into the top 5. No guesses who those 5 are because, well, I'm sure you can do elimination. So P5, there's a lot of yups, goes to Sergio Perez. So Sergio, P5 for him. He has had a tale of 2 halves as well, where it was all looking so rosy for Sergio at the start of the year. and it's kind of tailed off. So his grades, 2 A stars, 5 A's, 2 B's, 3 C's, and 1 D, which was Canada. And then no E's, of course. None of these drivers have E's coming up. Sergio.
This is another one where you can get a bit caught up in recency bias, because if you'd asked me to grade him now, I'd be like, Sergio top 5. That's a bit kind. Especially because you look at the grades we've given him in the last few races, and it was DACCC have all come in the last few races. And it really has bumped up his grade, because it's easy to forget just how good he was at the start of the season. You know, he put it on pole in Saudi and was unlucky. He won Monaco, and beat Verstappen at Monaco fair and square, and looked a lot more on the pace than Verstappen. And because Verstappen's so highly rated, if you're out qualifying Verstappen, you're getting a damn good grade. So, Sergio, I think him maybe 4, 5, 6 races into the season, there was this massive Sergio hype train. And if you'd put him third on this list, a lot of people would have agreed. But it is unfortunate that his season has, sort of tailed off a bit, and he's clearly not liking the car as much as he used to. But even then, it's not been appalling. So, I'd say fifth is about fair. What do the
I think on the balance of it, I think it's fair. Recency bias, as we've said, can definitely play a factor, with Perez definitely falling off over the last few races, getting 3 C's in a row, which has, of course, brought his averages down slightly. But you can't forget the amazing performances he's put in as well. And this is the whole point of this. It's an average over the course of the first half of the season, not just how they were in the last 3 races. Otherwise, exactly. Perez would probably be about 12th.
Yeah.
So, P5 for Sergio Perez. As for the poll, 50% have gone for lower. 41%, that's gone to 42% now, agree, and 8% have gone higher. So I think that a lot of those are thinking that Norris and Perez should be swapped, which is interesting. So Sergio P5. Well done, Checo. P4. Just missing out on the podium of the mid-season ABCD F1 driver rankings goes to George Russell. Now, George, of course, Mr. Consistency, Mr. Top 5, all that good stuff, has scored no A stars, and he's 4th. No A stars for George Russell. 7 A's, 5 B's, 1 C, no D's, and no E's. I'm imagining the 1 C came at Silverstone. Where maybe we were a bit kind on that one.
I thought, looking at the back, I'm like,
he maybe should have got a D for that.
And a D. So that would put him down even more. But he has just been solid. Like we say, a bit of a... I wonder how much... There'll be a lot of people in the chat thinking, this one is going to divide a lot of people.
Literally. As soon as I said it, everyone was like, what? Oh, my God.
Hamilton versus Russell is a difficult one to call, and it depends how you look at it. So Russell probably been more the solid driver, and Hamilton, now he's not running silly flaws and stuff, is kind of showing that he's better, in my opinion, and doing the work. So George Russell's had a very good season. He obviously got a lot of praise at the start of the season just because he was banging in those top 5s, but then do you say, well, he's just finishing where his car should be? And I think a lot of the surprise probably just came from the fact that he was beating Hamilton at the start of the season, and there was a lot of big moments, if you like, where George Russell would get it into Q3 and Hamilton got knocked out in Q1, wasn't it, in Saudi and things like that, which
Hamilton did get a D for Saudi.
It started this whole narrative of like, oh, Hamilton's not that good, really. George Russell, P4. It's very close, to be fair, with the next person. Very, very close. Again, it's the kind of the average between them works out. It's only a very minuscule amount. In fact, with the actual point system, it's 1 point. It's only 1
point. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're on YouTube, I'm sure we'll put this in post so you can see exactly where the points are and how far they are apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 point between fourth and third. So stop kicking off. All right. Like, it's just it's all a game.
It's very close.
So 55% reckon Russell should be higher, 40% agree, and 5% think he should be lower. And well, look, this is a testament. George has done well and he's been consistent, and he knows that we're going to grade solidly. And that's what he's thinking when he's finishing top 5, is how are we going to grade him in ABCD F1? And unfortunately, just off the podium for George Russell. And now we move on to the silverware. And this is where it all kicks off. In third place is Lewis Hamilton. 3 A stars for Spain, France, and Hungary. 6 A's, 1 B, 1 C, 2 D's, and no E's. So Lewis, thanks to his 5 podiums on the bounce, has thrust himself ahead of George Russell, essentially.
1 point.
Well, in the last 6 races, he's scored A star, A star. George Russell, brilliant. A, B, C, B, A, his last 6. And we're going to get a poll. Don't worry, chat. I see you all absolutely losing your minds to see what you think. But I agree. I think Hamilton, over the course of the season and how he has been, I know recency bias and all that, but generally he's had a couple of shockers. But he's been unbelievable these last 5-6 races. And I know there's a lot of talk. Have to keep prefacing it about him doing experimental setups at the start of the year and things like that. But Mercedes have actually come out and said that to that sort of to that degree, is that there has been an element of that. And I think it's no surprise now that Hamilton has been also incredibly good over these last few races, almost perfect.
Everyone I see in the chat is either like, Hamilton should be 4th, this is a joke, or Hamilton should be 2nd. Hamilton will always be the driver that just it's success, isn't it, in Formula One? It divides people. The best drivers always have the most fanboys and haters equally. And yeah, I think I personally think this is spot on. I think Hamilton had a bit of a shaky start to the season in a few races where, despite the experimental flaws and things like that, you're thinking, you shouldn't be out in Q1 in Saudi. And Imola was a difficult race where he was stuck behind Gasly the whole race, but he put himself there, and that's why he deserved the D grade. But ever since really Azerbaijan, and if you listen to what people say, that's when they stopped doing silly experimental things and hurting his back. Canada A, Silverstone A, Austria A, France A star, Hungary A star. He was brilliant in Hungary, absolutely brilliant. And you look back at Hungary and think maybe he could have won that race because he had a DRS problem in qualifying when George put it on pole, and he came through from 7th and beat George Russell in the race. And I think now we're seeing the fact that Hamilton is the better driver, and that's not to discredit George, but and he's had a very good consistent season. He's doing exactly what Mercedes will want from him. But I would not be surprised if the second half of the season we see Hamilton finishing 2nd in the title, and maybe people won't be so critical over us putting him 3rd in this list.
2nd in the title. Cool. See you there. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Thank you so much, Tommy. Yeah, I think that Hamilton has deserved that spot. I don't know if my camera's glitching out or not. It feels like it is a little bit. So I apologize if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch. But Hamilton, yeah, definitely has been really, really solid. And
it's close, the poll.
It's very close. Let's have a look at the poll. 43% agree that Hamilton should be 3rd. 43%, 42 now, think it should be lower.
So we're right. Thank you.
And 15% reckon he should be higher. So yeah, there you go. Hamilton absolutely flying, and P3 for the ABCD F1 rankings. Okay, we're into the top 2 now. In 2nd place, we have...
Drum roll, please.
Charles Leclerc.
I wanted you to say Verstappen just to see what the comments would have been.
I know.
Really
Can you
funny.
imagine? That would have been so good. Would have been so good. But Charles Leclerc P2, 5 A stars, 4 A's, 2 B's, 1 C, no D's, no E's, and 1 F, which was France.
He's the only driver that got an F other than Latifi.
Yeah, we were incredibly savage, but I think it was deserved.
100%.
So yeah, Charles Leclerc second. He's had some fantastic performances this year. He's had a couple of errors, but a lot of them have been either Ferrari strategy or Ferrari car blowing up. But yeah, that's the difference between him and getting anywhere near Max Verstappen at the top, is that yeah, there's been a couple of moments, but overall, obviously, he's been incredibly impressive this year. How he's been able to just constantly turn up week in, week out with Ferrari doing what Ferrari do is quite difficult, I think. But yeah, P2 for Leclerc. I think, I feel like it. I don't know. Recency bias, but I'm almost like, does Hamilton deserve to be P2?
No, I don't think he does. He might well do at the end of the season, but I think people who are jumping on Leclerc saying he should be lower and it's ridiculous that he's second need to remember how many races he could have won this year and through no fault of his own.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, true. Yes, he's made a mistake at Italy and an enormous mistake at France, but we've punished him for it. And, Austria, he was brilliant. Silverstone, he could have easily won that race, but Ferrari put him on the wrong strategy. Canada didn't come through the field very quick, but it's because he had an engine penalty. Azerbaijan, you could say he might have won that race. Monaco probably would have won that race. Yeah, if it was a normal situation. Spain, he's definitely winning the race, and these are all A stars, and it's not his fault. And he's finishing ahead of Carlos Sainz, and it's very easy. And obviously, I do my job as a Verstappen fanboy to mock you over the stat of him getting loads of poles and no wins, but so much of that is not his fault. Yes, France was, but so many of those aren't his fault. And I think he's definitely been the second best driver. If you look at the points of how it's actually worked out, George Russell 58, Hamilton 59, Leclerc 61. So it was quite close. And then you've got a big old jump to person in P1 who was on 69.
Can we get a nice in the chat, please? And I think obviously having an F and still finishing second just shows where Leclerc was probably very close to Verstappen, but didn't manage it because of that. But he also obviously got downgraded because of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, where he made that mistake. We gave him a C on that occasion. Maybe could have given him a D, but C it was. So yes, we now move on to first position, and is of course, unless you don't know all the drivers in Formula One, Max Verstappen.
Hulkenberg.
No surprises whatsoever. He has been just ridiculous. Yeah. That man just performs every single race weekend, just like you expect Lewis Hamilton to perform every single race weekend. And Lewis hasn't necessarily turned up in every single Grand Prix. Max higher, a lot of people are saying in chat, which is fair enough. But Max has put 5 A stars on the board, 7 A's and 1 B. That's it. Hasn't scored lower than a B. And the only one he got that for was Monaco, where he was outpaced by Perez. And of course, Monaco, you can't overtake. So
yeah. And arguably, Perez destroyed his tires and Max was all over the back of him at the end, but you can't overtake. So that's where it's fair. That is Monaco. You're right. He just doesn't have a day off, does he?
Does not have a day off.
It's crazy. I've actually, because I'm a fanboy, I went through. Shout out to TuneFix, who's done an awesome table, and we'll stick it in like the YouTube thing and put it on our social for you to have a look at. But I actually looked because there's still this stat that's ongoing. Because if you think of Silverstone, yes, he was out the points, but he was carrying a whole piece of AlphaTauri end plate, rear wing on his in his floor, and still got points. So the fact that He's always on the podium every time he's had a working car. And I actually went through and looked at his 2021 grades as well. And if you combine them all from the start of 2021 to now, he's got 0 Fs, 0 Es, 0 Ds, 2 Cs, 1 B, 15 As, and 17 A stars. It's just ridiculous. Like, he is just on scary form. And I guess that's why he's so far ahead in the title, because when he can get his bad days are P3 or even finishing 7th at Silverstone when he's got half a car or whatever. So yeah, unbelievable.
So as for the poll, 95% agree, 5% think he should be lower. A lot of people spamming where's the higher option. That would have been quite funny to add that. But yes, it's no surprise that Max Verstappen's P1. He's on another level and wouldn't be surprised if he wins the championship by over 100 points this year. Genuinely. I think he'll wrap it up with maybe 4 or 5 races to go. And Ferrari pain. Woo! Love it. But yeah, there you go. That has been the ABCDF1 mid-season reviews. Of course, we will have one at the end of the season as well, to reflect on how people have improved or not improved from their current positions through the middle of the season. Tommy, final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, bring on Spa.
Wow, that was incredible. You could was there one driver that you were most surprised about in this top 20 of where they ranked, and why is it Sebastian Vettel?
Yeah. Biggest surprise, was probably Vettel being a little higher than I thought he'd be. Didn't actually look at the points of that. So we can't do points because he missed a few races, so it's really hard to tell. And then the fact that I guess Hamilton was quite surprising, because it's really easy to remember that you think he might have had a really bad start to the year, because that was all the talk of, Hamilton's not winning in a good car. But then when you actually look back at it, there was a bit of bad luck there as well, and was running all these flaws. And now we're sort of back to the Hamilton and Verstappen, just elite level, getting A's and A stars every week. So it'd be interesting to see how that continues throughout the season, whether we're there talking about Hamilton and Verstappen having about 12 A stars by the end of the year. We shall see.
We shall see indeed. My final thoughts are, wow. Yeah, that's I think we've done all right. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comments in the YouTube description in the YouTube comments even, and I'm sure on social media as well. But remember, these are just our opinions, and lots of factors can go into some of these grades. But that is it. Thank you to the audio listeners for tuning in. If you want to watch us live doing this sort of stuff with loads of podcasts, come and join us over on Twitch, WTF1 Official over there, and we'll see you very soon for another podcast. Bye.
Bye.